Welcome everyone. Decided to do another stream, kind of last minute, but I don't know, just haven't had a whole lot of time, haven't had a whole lot to do recently. Too much time on my hands, and so I don't know. I just figure always a good opportunity to learn, or not learn, but to practice Hebrew, and to get some insights that honestly otherwise probably would have not even thought twice about. So post a link here if anyone wants to join. Good morning, Graham. How are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, Ariel. How you doing today?
I'm all right. How's your cat doing?
He's pretty good. He just wanted some petting. He's right next to me.
Nice. Let's see where to go. Oh, right here. So so today we're covering Abraham and Sarah, my sister or my bride. I mean, it's kind of poking fun at the there's this one phrase, אחותי, which is my sister, my bride. It's something you see throughout, honestly, the ancient Near East and even beyond that. It's this idea of you basically have that idea with Adam and Eve. They're essentially twins.
Yeah, sister, bride. Why make the choice? Why not have both? That seems to be their attitude.
And it's like sister wife. I don't think they quite understood. It's like sister wife, and so you end up with, and again, not. I mean, obviously, most members of the LDS Church are against polygamy now, but I just think it's kind of funny because the idea of sister wife, kind of how it became associated with this idea of your fellow wife, you and someone else are a wife, and you're sisters in that regard, as opposed to your wife who is also your sister. That's what sister wife used to mean. But
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, that you're going to get polygamy before you get to that return to the old school incestual sister wife, I think.
yeah, all I know is thank God we moved on from this stuff. Well,
or at least most of us have.
yeah, I was going to say most of the 50 states.
There are some pockets in the South, I'm sure, that, that I don't know if they've gotten to the 1800s yet.
Honestly, I I'm I'm just not saying anything.
One of the earliest stories in Genesis, one which pushes the strains on marriage, is undoubtedly one of the most overlooked. It is a story between a man named Abram, soon to be known as Abraham, and his wife Sarai, or more commonly known as Sarah.
Hey, good morning,
The
Philip.
narratives between these
Hope you're
characters
doing
are
well.
key to understanding the earliest accounts of the Bible, and feature an imperative insight into the earliest interactions in the post-flood era between man and his God. Abraham is perhaps the first character who is detailed as communion with God in this new world, one which had since flourished in the thousands of years that had passed since Noah's time. Whilst the Bible doesn't detail whether God had communed with Abram's father, which is possible, these conversations are not mentioned. In this, it can be assumed.
It's kind of interesting. I wonder if you go back far enough, when God spoke to women, was it a woman's voice? You see what I'm saying? Like, how much of this is like, and again, I'm not saying there's nothing to it, because in a lot of cases, people feel like it's something outside of themselves that they're experiencing, even if it's like within their own head. Like, not like they're hearing voices, but like, how to explain? It's almost like a type of intuition where it's like you're in someone's head without hearing them speak. And I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like people. I've definitely seen that happen, especially with like evangelical religion, and even how it's affected non-evangelical strains of Christianity to a point where people have this idea of like having a talk with Jesus or whatever. Like that's something that I think the idea of a personal God, regardless of what religion, it's like it's pretty universal in that regard. But oh,
My rule is there's nothing wrong with talking to God. It's when you start hearing the words back from God with your ears that you need to start sitting up, paying attention, and wonder what's going on.
wait, but what if God's telling you that you just won a great plot of land in a terrific neighborhood?
That's great as long as he doesn't ask for $5,000 up front from you.
What if he just tells you to go, from your father's house to a land that he tells you?
I was going to say, no, that's not a bad deal. Again, if it's occupied from other people, you got to wonder, God, they kind of say that it's their land. You're saying it's my land. What's up with that?
All I know is that if it's that easy to sell you on that, then I've got a cave to sell you in Hebron.
I was going to say, I'm sure you're going to have a line waiting to buy that cave from you too.
I've actually been there. It's beautiful. It's not quite how I imagined it. I imagined it to be this like underworld cave thing, and then when I went there, it was basically just like a synagogue / mosque. It was underwhelming. I'm not going to lie. Okay, so Philip, I had a lot of anxiety last month, but things were looking out. Yeah, that's really tough. I'd like honestly, I kind of had a bit of an anxiety attack last night, but I think it might have just been I was really tired. Just kind of like thinking about like some of like the inevitabilities of life, and like it wasn't even like I don't know. It's hard to explain. It was just like was like you get your mind in a spin and you can't stop thinking. But anyway.
That Abram, to his credit, was the first man to speak to God in quite some time. The story here showcases the theme of faith, or the promises that God makes man, usually to both test him.
Hey, I'm sure you'll have a lot of faith if you drink these 2 potions.
And to determine if he is worthy of receiving that which God has intended for him. In this case,
Oh, sorry, I'm thinking of courage, liquid courage, but this looks like it's more likely to kill you than to give you strength.
Abram is commanded by his God to leave the comforts of his father's house in the land of Haran and to set off towards the land of Egypt. God tells Abram, in what appears to be his first interaction with the man, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make into you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you." Now, considering the possibility that God had not been very talkative in the
How's that panning out? I mean,
A
guess
lot of his exegesis here, it violates some of those rules. It's like he had it early on is, we can assume. And one of the rules I was taught, if the Bible doesn't explicitly state it, you're not safe assuming anything into there. That's sort of a fast and loose, bad exegesis going on there. Or at least that's my take on it. I was learning to try to avoid that if possible.
It's almost like the Bible is a mirror. People can find whatever they want in it to support whatever they want because there's literally everything.
Oh, that's one of those feature, not a bug. It's kind of designed that way because some situations, it depends on the context. The right call is one thing if in one context, it's a different thing in another context. And if the Bible gave you a one-size-fits-all rule, it's not going to be accurate. The problem is trying to, get the human being to recognize when you invoke rule A and when you have to invoke rule B. Bible leaves that up to the individual, and that gets to be challenging. Tag.
The many passings of generations between Noah and Abram, you can only imagine how skeptical Abram would have been to hearing God's voice at all. However, this is never detailed in the Bible. As far as we can tell, Abram would have likely have been raised by his father Terah with a great fear of God, and so when God called upon him, Abram didn't think twice about disobeying.
Has this person ever read the freaking Bible? Like, Terah. I mean, I guess you could argue that the two aren't mutually exclusive, but like, come on, within the narrative, you're going to say that Terah brought him up to fear the same God that said don't make idols. Like, it's not consistent. I don't know where he's getting this from.
Or even questioning what would have been a strange encounter. But furthermore, we see God promise to show Abram a better life, and that he will acquire greatness for his name. But not only this, but that everyone else on earth would be blessed through him. So not only is Abram guaranteed to increase his own worth by listening to God, but that everyone else on earth will also benefit from his continued obedience. So for Abram, following God's word is a no-brainer, and there doesn't seem to be much in the way of a downside. So Abram took his...
Oh, what's the downside? Hey, it's like the oh yeah, there's the in that one game in Total War Pharaoh, one of the load screens, I forget what it was, but it's like kind of like it's about Moloch, but it's it just kind of reminds me. It's like, oh, this God's good. He's not going to make me do anything bad. And then he's like, yeah, sacrifice your son. And then, honestly, I do kind of wonder if with the Gnostic translation, or not translations, but traditions around this work, because there's probably a way that some people looked at this as the one who, like, rather than being like an indecisive God, or rather than testing Abraham, that like you have one that's trying to get him to sacrifice this son, and then another that's trying to save him. What are your thoughts?
Well, part of what I always took the sacrifice of Isaac for was that idea of you're setting aside your first fruits. It's any community that has a surplus that it can put aside the first parts is a community that's doing better financially and doing better socially, and that's usually a sign of God's favor. And I see those two being linked together. And again, it's I can easily see that was the original teaching, back, well before literacy, perhaps. And the idea later on was it became a, God switching that to, oh, psych, especially when money came in, because then it ended up becoming you could pay money instead of having your child sacrificed.
Dude, this is literally, you literally were just describing this without even saying it. This is freaky. Listen to this.
דוד, האם אני נשארת פה באזור? בסדר.
זה בני בכורי והוא פטר רחם לאימו הישראלית. שמו חוצי בו לפדויסוי שנאמר ופדויו מבן חודש תפדה בערך כחוק כסף 5 שקלים בשקל הקודש 10 גרו ונאמר קדש לי כל בכור פטר כל רחם לבני ישראל באדום ובאימו ליהו.
ביי ביסטווי, ליתן לי בין חברי רחוב שהוא פטר רחם לאימוי ובייס לפדויסוי בעדך בישראל כדי מחייב מדי רייסה.
חופץ אני לפדויס בני ואילך מי פדיונו כדי מחייבתי מדי רייסה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על פדיון הבן. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
אמן.
And 2 silver coins.
So
the father just bought back his child, his son.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגופן.
So, have you ever seen or heard that?
Yeah, no, I understand that was a second stage development, where the first one was where you could basically, again, it's an abomination, but you could buy another person's baby to offer for sacrifice rather than your own.
Wait, what? No, the whole point is that it has to be your own child.
I'm saying I've read things where they sat there and that was an intermediate stage, was that you could that a lot of people would basically buy a child and you would pass it off as your own sort of thing.
Where was this? Phoenicia?
Yeah. Again, Cana, Phoenicia, again, old, that whole area. I'm not saying that it was a Jewish tradition. I'm just saying, that this was a tradition that the Jews partook in, and it was a much more regional, widespread sort of thing.
Let's see. Do they actually? Why is he going to? No, I'm just going to show it. No, I just want a quick video talking about it. This should not be that hard to figure out where to find it. Oh, wait, it was no. Anyway, I mean, if we even got to talking about it, it would be like tomorrow. So whatever, it's kind of far ahead.
This goes to show us that despite how wise or successful a man might become,
oh
he
yeah,
still
the
prone to sin,
Tophets.
and that even the best can slip back into sinful habits if they are not careful.
Have they been found at Tanis, or are you saying Tanit? Because there's also Tanit was the mother goddess of Carthage, and also
I was thinking he was referring to Carthage, and I was also thinking he might be talking Tunis, which was just right there as well.
No, but there's also Tanis in Egypt.
Okay, yeah. That was Indiana Jones. I remember that.
No, Indiana's in America, my friend.
Henry Jones Jr.
Oh, right. How could
Raiders of the Lost Ark. The city was Tanis.
Dude, honestly, I could really watch some Nazi faces melt off like pizza right now, but I mean, I feel like the fascism's kind of like the popular thing now, so it's like more likely that they're going to try to do that to the rest of us. But hey,
I was going to say, you're much better off than a lot of people. I think too many people these days want to see Hamas faces melt off. So, I'm much better going old school and watching, old, Nazis from, 100 years ago have their face melt off.
yeah, it's only fun when it's not animatronics, but when it's special effects. When it's real life, not so fun.
This is very typical of those who are trying to break bad habits, and highlights the discipline required in order to stop oneself from doing something they shouldn't. Notice, in Abraham's case, this is
Get
lying,
on with it, come on.
and this part of the story
Here,
shows us
the narrative
that he
part.
stumbles where he had stumbled
My
before.
hand.
Lying isn't the only one of Abraham's sins here, though, but also that he still doesn't fully trust his God. Instead of believing that God would protect him and Sarah from Abimelech, he takes matters into his own hands again, and resigns himself to being a cuckold in order to avoid harm. If he had the faith to just let God take care of things, he wouldn't need to burden himself with such a reality. With that,
I'm still
Abimelech
not
has
convinced
Sarah
that he
plucked
wasn't
from
trying to get free
Abraham's
stuff
house.
out of it, free merch.
But we learn that God appears to Abimelech in a dream one night and tells him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." God's words here are pretty profound. He tells Abimelech that he's basically a dead man walking because of what he has done. And whilst this might seem a bit extreme because he hadn't actually slept with her yet, it shows us how much God had invested in Abraham and Sarah. By pronouncing Abimelech a dead man, it also strikes him, a pagan king, in a way that cannot be misunderstood. God hovers the very real sense of death above Abimelech's head, so that there can be no argument between the two, and to scare Abimelech into doing the right thing,
What?
in giving Sarah back. Another idea as to why God was so severe with Abimelech here, especially considering he technically didn't do anything wrong, was because without his intervention, Abimelech probably would have slept with Sarah, and thus the true father of Isaac and the covenant itself would likely have been up for some debate thereafter. The Bible
Interesting.
confirms Abimelech's innocence, as it says, "Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, 'Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, she is my sister? And didn't she also say, he is my brother? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands.'" Interestingly, despite being a pagan king, Abimelech recognizes God's power, going on to explain
Oh my
himself
god,
as he does.
that's see, and this is the thing. Technically, if you look at it not within the way that the Bible presents it, but you look at it within the internal narrative, it actually makes a lot of sense that pagan kings would be afraid of God because he's still the supreme God. Like that's what people don't understand. That like for the most, I mean, given a lot of this also has to do with syncretization, so it's not. It's like a lot of it's like retroactively looking back. So to say that, like for instance, the God of the Bible is also the like the God of Canaan, it just ended up being that way. Not that it ended up being that way, but rather it ended up being that the God that was associated with the Canaanite El happened to be Yahweh, even though it was a different God within that original context. Does it make sense?
Well, it makes sense that it doesn't really make sense because that's kind of what you're saying.
Honestly, I'm kind of running over my own words, so I'm just hoping that I'm not a bumbling idiot right now.
Well, no, the whole Bible thing is so convoluted about these sorts of points. And again, they go into great details to talk about, no, there's no way that Isaac could possibly be Abimelech's son. Abimelech's son. Yeah, no possible way, even though the timing is totally right.
I don't think the timing is right though, is it?
Yeah, because the next thing in the next thing in Genesis is the birth of Isaac.
Yeah, but I mean, it also skips around time. It's not like directly after.
Oh, I thought that was the next part. The next verse in the Bible is the whole birth of Isaac.
Oh, I mean, it might be, but what I'm saying is it doesn't mean that narratively there isn't stuff that could have happened. I don't know. I guess the point is that I have an issue when people look at these earlier narratives and they try to pass it off as history. Even if you believe that these things did happen, to say that they happened as they're told, like, there's just no way to know.
Well, I go a little stronger than that. I can almost guarantee it didn't happen exactly as it's written. And it's part of it is I do see it as history, but it's encoded history. It's like they have their own unique ways of encoding it. Because so much of like the nations, they're talking to them about tribes, and they're putting that into the table of nations, and they're relating it as sort of like family disputes and things like that, as opposed to wars between people and such.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's an interesting encoding, and it takes a while to get used to it. But if you try to read it like you said, as this is a one individual doing this sort of thing, it's like you can look at Abraham as an individual, or as the leader of his family, or as the leader of the whole, the whole, his all of his descendants. Each one of those is a legitimate point of view, but each one of them is going to produce a slightly different interpretation depending on which way you're looking at the verses. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I find interesting. Tag.
It's also worth mentioning. So, Philip said pagans would be afraid of any god, not just the Most High. I mean, so you're right about that, but I would push back against the idea that they'd be afraid of any god, because like you have to recognize the existence of a god in order to actually be afraid of them. On some level, you have the people who they would do anything just out of fear that they don't want to piss off a god, but on some level, like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like you have some maybe like fear within the context of you don't want to piss them off, so you respect them, but in terms of like this level of fear, this idea that like gods are, I mean, it could literally be something as simple as like I'm trying to think of what are their gods of, like some really innocuous shit, but like basically not all gods were seen as like all powerful, or like some gods were basically just slightly more worshipped demigods, or in cases not even like gods as we'd think of it today, just like spirits. So it's like I don't know, you're totally right. I feel like there's also maybe a bit of a distinction between, yeah, I'm also tired, so it could be that.
Yeah, no, he also brings up something that jumps out at me I think this is the same interpretation. I don't know if it's the same video, but they were talking about early on about how God hadn't spoken to people in years, and then he's talking to Abraham, and you turn around and he's talking to Abimelech. It's like, what the heck? He decided, oh, I'm going to talk to Abe, and now he's just a chatterbox. He's talking to everybody. I find that kind of interesting. Tag.
So, what do we actually know about Avimelech?
Not much, like I said. What shows to me is that's a recurring term for basically any sort of Canaanite king. So you can't even sounds like you can't even necessarily trace down, which, do they even say who he was king of?
Oh,
You know, which sub-tribe? I mean, I know he's Canaanite king, but you know, which group was he actually? Which Canaanite group? I don't know if they say. I don't remember.
Anyway, let's continue. Maybe we'll find out.
Yeah.
It might be said that he already knew of God, as he assumes that God will destroy his nation, possibly referencing the events that took place in Sodom and Gomorrah. Whilst not God-fearing, Abimelech certainly comes to realize the potency of God and speaks to him honestly. He reveals Abraham's deception and proves that he had no idea that he and Sarah were married. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have gone near her at all. But God also reveals that he wouldn't have even let Abimelech
Probably.
touch her anyway, for he probably would not have allowed there to be a discrepancy over the parentage of Isaac and the
You
future
haven't noticed how
genealogy that would
probably and
eventually bring
possibly
forth the Messiah.
infest his
The
speech?
Bible tells us, "Then God said to him in the dream, 'Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her.'" In this, God is able to comfort Abimelech in telling him that he knows he has done nothing wrong, and so is not going to be punished. He also reveals that there was no way he would allow him to sin here, and so confirms his earlier threat of Abimelech being a dead man, because if he had gone to sleep with Sarah, then God would have snuffed him. God then instructs Abimelech to return Sarah, saying, "Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." As can be seen, the threat here is reinforced, and no longer is it only Abimelech's life that hangs in the balance, but also the lives of his loved ones. We also see here that God offers Abimelech an opportunity for Abraham's blessings, for if he gives Sarah back, he will pray for him. Interestingly, we also learn that God's love for Abraham has not wavered with Abraham's lack of faith and most recent sin. God still recognizes him as a prophet, and unfortunately, we don't see God proceed to reprimand Abraham, furthermore suggesting the love God had for Abraham, that he was willing to turn a blind eye to his mistakes. Some might see this again as God's mercy and the importance of forgiveness. The very next morning, Abimelech summoned all of his officials and told them all what had happened. Naturally, they were all very afraid, so without wasting any time, Abimelech summoned Abraham and demanded of him, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you, that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." Here we see Abimelech reprimand Abraham himself, as he exposes Abraham's deceitfulness and points out what a dastardly thing it was, for it brought upon him and his nation much guilt. Ironically, it is the pagan king who has the right of it, and the hallowed man of God in Abraham who was in the wrong. Some have said that God might have spoken through Abimelech, and that Abimelech's words were as
So
much
after this
God's
video,
as they
we'll
were
start
his
reading
own.
the Hebrew and then we'll finish up.
With Abimelech chastising Abraham, he also unveils exactly what it was that Abraham did wrong, so that the prophet might never do this again. Another idea was that this was Abraham's punishment, to be publicly admonished and humiliated by the pagan king. He then demands of Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Which is a pretty great question, considering Abraham could not hide behind the idea that God had asked him to do this, because God had already spoken with Abimelech, who essentially agreed with him. In this, Abraham is forced to admit that he acted out of his own poor judgment, and was by all means wrong, except he doesn't. Instead, he worms his way out of it yet again, and excuses himself by saying, "I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife." Abraham seeks to sell the idea that he believed the people of Gerar to be savages, and disguised Sarah as his sister again because, just like last time in Egypt, he was scared that the locals would kill him to obtain her. He's also bold to assume that they are not believers of his God, which is pretty ironic because the moment God appears before Abimelech, Abimelech is quick to do as he's told. You'll notice that Abraham refers to the locals as having no fear of God, but in actuality, it is more likely that the fear of God was not in Abraham, for if it was, he wouldn't go about second-guessing his promises and protection by trusting his own efforts instead. He then continues to try and justify his trickery, saying, "Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife." Yeah, good one, Abe. Basically, this is him being really weaselly and attempting to vindicate himself of any blame by saying Sarah is technically his sister, or half-sister, because they share the same father. Here he tries to spin this as being a half-truth, but fails to realize that if a half-truth is used with the intention to deceive, then it is still basically a lie. We see him even try to indirectly shift the blame onto God, saying, "And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, 'This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.'" Whilst not explicitly stated, he is in some sense referring to the journey as being dangerous, and that he had to protect himself in this way, because God did not give him any reassurance. Other than the covenant itself. To sum up, Abraham doesn't admit to his deceptions, doesn't humble himself in defeat, and doesn't even say sorry. The chapter concludes with Abimelech showing kindness to Abraham and Sarah, probably now that he had the fear of God in him, by giving them sheep, cattle, and slaves. He tells Abraham, "My land is before you. Live wherever you like." He then turns to Sarah and tells her, "I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated." Here we see Abimelech refer to
What do you
Abraham
make of all
sarcastically,
this?
as he tells Sarah that he is giving her brother 1,000 shekels of silver and not her husband, which would have been more accurate.
How do we
From this,
know?
it can be gathered that Abimelech was aware of how Abraham had not apologized, but was powerless to do anything about it because he now had the fear of God. In the end, all Abimelech can do is respond with sarcasm, about the only thing he had left after all the hassle. It's also interesting that Abimelech only pays Abraham the silver to cover the offenses he had caused Sarah. And this serves as an apology from the pagan king to Sarah, who, as a woman during those times, probably wasn't expecting to be recognized at all, let alone receive an apologetic gesture. Whether intentionally or not, this chapter paints the pagan Abimelech as having more in the way of humanity than that of the prophet chosen by God. Of course, one might have expected the payment to be made to Sarah, considering she was the one traded about like a Pokemon card. But this is not the case, and the gender roles of the time are upheld to the fullest.
Oh.
The chapter concludes with the Bible telling us, "Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving, because of Abraham's wife Sarah." So here the Bible seeks to establish a more tangible penalty that God had delivered upon Abimelech, as opposed to just death, as previously suggested. In this, there is an idea that Sarah had been held by Abimelech for some time, long enough that it became apparent that no woman of Gerar had gotten pregnant in a while. Either this, or God had explained to Abimelech that this would be the case, and Abimelech had simply believed him. In any case, the curse is lifted, and Abimelech and his people, despite their paganistic beliefs, are spared as promised. Let me know your thoughts on today's video in the comments below, and as always, if you've enjoyed today's video, then
This
don't
guy
forget to give it a
really
thumbs up,
went
and
fast
don't
with
forget to
some
subscribe.
stuff. What did you think?
I was gonna say one of the things that jumped out in the way that he was telling is it's just really he really makes it sound like Abe was pimping Sarah out first to Pharaoh and then to Abimelech. It's like, here, yeah, here, have my sister, and then I get to leave with a bunch of gifts. That sounds like payment for her services.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was thinking about labeling the episode that, but I didn't want to unite the monotheistic world and hatred for my channel in that sarcastic name, so I didn't choose it. But
I was gonna say I almost have to laugh at you, Ariel. You were going to be able to reunite the Abrahamic phase that people have tried to do for centuries. Only, just not necessarily in the way you wanted.
Yep. Anyway, so
Yeah, the other one that jumped out at me, and again, I'm reading ahead here a little bit, is he ends up teaching Isaac to pull the same sister wife trick, but they also do it to the same King Abimelech in Gerar. Again, same location, same name, king, Abraham's son, same wife sister trick.
interesting. So ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד, ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו, ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. Oh wait. Alright. ויסע משם אברהם ארצה הנגב וישב בין קדש ובין שור ויגר בגרר. ויאמר אברהם אל שרה אשתו אחותי היא, וישלח אבימלך מלך גרר ויקח את שרה. ויבוא אלוהים אל אבימלך בחלום הלילה, ויאמר לו הנך מת על האישה אשר לקחת, והיא בעולת בעל. ואבימלך לא קרב עליה, ויאמר אדוני הגוי גם צדיק תהרוג. הלא הוא אמר לי אחותי היא, וגם היא אמרה אחי הוא בתם לבבי ובנקין כפי עשיתי זאת. ויאמר אליו האלוהים בחלום גם אנוכי ידעתי כי בתם לבבך עשית זאת, ואחסוך גם אנוכי אותך מחתו לי, על כן לא נתתיך לנגוע עליה. ואתה השב אשת האיש כי נביא הוא, ויתפלל בעדך וחיי וימינך. משיבדה כי מות תמות אתה, וכל אשר לך וישכם אבימלך בבוקר ויקרא לכל עבדיו וידבר את כל הדברים האלה באוזניהם ויראו האנשים מאוד ויקרא אבימלך לאברהם ויאמר לא מה עשית לנו מחטאתי לך כי הבאת עלי ועל ממלכתי חטאה גדולה מעשים אשר לא יעשו עשית עמדי ויאמר אבימלך אל אברהם מה ראית כי עשית את הדבר הזה ויאמר and he journeyed and Abraham journeyed from there to the land of the Negev to the southlands and he settled between Kadesh and between Shur and and he dwelled in or journeyed in Gerar, and then Gerar means a lodging place. Interesting. And Abraham said to Sarah, his wife, my sister. He said of Sarah, she is my sister. And so Abimelech sent, the king of Gerar sent and took Sarah. And God came to Abimelech in a vision or in a dream at night. And he said to him, behold, you are dead. You are dead over this woman that you have taken, and she is Beulat Baal. She is the woman of she is the wife of a husband, or the woman of a husband. It's an interesting word, Beulat. Oh, that's wild. I didn't know that the root Baal actually means to marry or rule over. Fascinating. Wait, where's my phone? I need to take a picture of those.
Yeah, rule over makes sense. The marry it wouldn't have put together.
Why not?
Well, for Paul, Paul being Lord, to rule over makes sense.
Also means husband.
No, didn't know that part. Okay.
And Abimelech did not draw near to her, and he said, Adonai, my lords, the nation, even the righteous, you will kill, like questioning. He said to himself, she is my sister, and she is also and she is also her. What I said, my sister, and also Batam Levavi, and also I don't. It says that what I did in my heart was blameless, and my hands were clean. Basically, saying he didn't lie. And he said to him, and God said to him, in a dream, or in the dream, also, behold, I know that in the purity of your heart, or the blamelessness of your heart, it says, Asita, what you have done, you have done this, and you have withheld also. I'm not sure. I knew that you did this was a blameless heart, as I kept you from saying against me. Mechatohuli, you sinned to me. Therefore you do not get, or you do not get given. I don't even know. I will not let you touch her, it says. And now, therefore, restore the woman of the man that they, the ones who have, because he is a prophet, and he will pray on your behalf, or as your witness. And you will live. And if in your eyes, you return Dakima, know that you are certainly dead. You and all that is yours. And early the next morning, Abimelech, in the morning, he called out to all his servants, and he ordered that he told them all the things. He spoke all the words, all these words, in their ears, and they saw, and they were greatly frightened at saying, they thought, Vayikra Abimelech, and Abimelech called out to Abraham, and he said to him, what have you done? Why have you done this to us? And what have I sinned against you? Because you brought upon us and upon our you have brought upon me and upon my kingdom sin, a great sin, sin and deeds that are not yes, I don't know, those things that should not be done, it's saying. And Abimelech said to Abraham, what do you right what was your purpose? Kiasita at Hadavar, because what I did that was the I don't know. Any thoughts?
I was going to say, it's one of those where what jumps out at me is it's like God is coming in as prosecutor and judge at the same time, saying, you did this. It's like God should know that he didn't do anything wrong at this point. And that's why so much of this comes as, like sort of false protesting. No, nothing happened there. And you have things like, I did that deed with clear conscience, clean hands. I didn't know any better. Again, I'm definitely picking up a subtext of Isaac being Abimelech's kid. Again, picking up the subtext doesn't mean it's the right one, but it's it's definitely lying there. Tag.
Oh, this is funny. Abimelech.
Funny.
In the desert, the Negev desert, the lion sleeps tonight.
Yeah, that'd be a share of Lion of Yahweh, right?
Lion share, you said?
And that would be Asherah, the Lion of Yahweh.
Oh,
Lion
yeah.
of Judah.
It's actually one of like the most direct meaning of my name. It's kind of cool. One second. Let's see, Vayera. Right here. See if I can't find something. I just need a tiny break, so let me see if I can just find something about the Ammonites in the meantime, because we found something about Moabites. Ammonites in the Bible.
Universal Technical Institute offers financial aid, including scholarships and grants, to help fund training for those who qualify.
Welcome to Beneath the Bible, where we're helping you dig deeper and uncover the world beneath the sacred book. Today, we're continuing our series about people groups of the Bible with a look at the Ammonites. Along with the Moabites, the Ammonites were Israel's neighbors to the east during the Iron Age. In the Bible, their origin is linked with that of the Moabites as well. We have a fair amount of archaeological material from the Ammonites, whose existence continued until at least the 2nd century AD. We'll explore that history and more in today's look at the Ammonites. The Ammonites appear as a traditional antagonist of the people of Israel. Like the Moabites, the Ammonites first appear in the Bible as the sons of Ammon, and their origin story is given in Genesis 19. Their ancestor, Ammon, is the product of an incestuous relationship between Lot and his two daughters, the other offspring being Moab. So you, the reader, should immediately know what kind of people the Ammonites are. They have shameful origins, so they do shameful things now, like worshiping non-Yahwistic gods and harassing God's people. The land of Ammon is first mentioned in the stories of Moses leading the Hebrews to the Promised Land. They avoid the land of Ammon, as well as the land of Moab to its south, only attacking the kingdom of Sihon. Even without any conquest narrative, the land all around Ammon is allotted to the Transjordanian tribes like Gad and Reuben. The Ammonites show up briefly, or maybe crossing the Jordan for occasional raids. Sometimes we just hear that they are allies of the oppressors of Israel. The Ammonites really came to prominence in the period of the Israelite monarchy and later. Saul fought the Ammonite king Nahash, who was laying siege to the Transjordanian Israelite city of Jabesh in Gilead. David fought Hanun, the son of Nahash. Hanun insulted David's emissaries, which precipitated a major regional conflict. It's during the Israelite siege of Rabbah, the capital of the Ammonites, that David's sin with Bathsheba occurs. The Israelites were ultimately successful and took the city, subjugating the kingdom of Ammon. It's interesting that during Absalom's rebellion, an Ammonite named Shobi provided support for David, not military support, but material support. Shobi says he is the son of Nahash, so he's possibly the brother of Hanun, who had insulted David. Solomon is said to have married an Ammonite woman and to have followed after the Ammonite deity Milcom. It may be this Ammonite woman named Naamah who was the mother of his son Rehoboam. In the period of the divided monarchy, the Ammonites appear in historical texts a number of times, usually as antagonists of the southern kingdom of Judah. In the prophetic texts, the Ammonites feature prominently in the triptych of the traditional enemies of Israel and Judah, along with Moab and Edom. Ammonites seem to have weathered the Babylonian conquest better than the Judahites, as they're still present in the accounts of Nehemiah, where the Ammonites opposed the work of rebuilding Jerusalem. They even appear in the book of Maccabees as adversaries of the Jews.
The Ammonites, or the sons of Ammon, appear as a Transjordanian polity during the Iron Age. Ammon is really just a single city-state, unlike the region and polity of Moab or a cluster of urban centers like Philistia. The Ammonites are the people of the city of Rabbath Ammon, or Rabbah Bene Ammon in the Bible, and the area around it, or what is called Bet Ammon. It's noteworthy that this area saw a cycle of urbanism and sedentarism throughout its ancient history. For example, in the Middle Bronze Age, there's a period of urban prosperity and important cities in the area. But these were abandoned and the population seemingly became more nomadic during the Late Bronze Age. The area saw a process of sedentarization in the Iron Age when a new population settled and built in the area, and this group came to be called the Ammonites. The polity built by the Ammonites is just one major urban center and a few affiliated smaller settlements subject to it. Unfortunately, the Iron Age remains of Rabbath Ammon from the period when the Ammonite kingdom was at its peak are not as plentiful or as well preserved as we'd hope. This is partially because it's still an active, flourishing metropolis, modern Jebel Kala or Citadel Hill in the city of Amman, Jordan. The territory of the Ammonites was focused around this capital city. Their eastern border ended in the desert, meaning that throughout the Ammonites' history, they remained in an ecologically marginal space. The Ammonites were certainly capable of farming, and the land around Amman has a Mediterranean climate that is semi-arid and warm, but conservation of water was and is an important facet of life in this area. To the east, the annual rainfall quickly drops below 200 millimeters, which is the limit needed for dry farming. There are a series of watchtowers used across multiple periods that overlooked the arable land of Ammon, indicating how precious this land really was. The real prosperity of the city came from being on a trade route, the north-south King's Highway through the Jordan Rift Valley on the east side of the Dead Sea. The route connected with other trade routes to their south, which connected with Egypt and Arabia, and from Rabbah, one could also continue north to Damascus and then into Mesopotamia. The northern border of the Ammonites did not go that far north, but ended at the Jabbok River. To the west, the territory went up to a mountain ridge and the headwaters of several wadis which flowed into the Jordan. Beyond the western border was Gilead, which the Bible says was the territorial land of Reuben and Gad. The southern border of the Ammonites ran up to Moabite territory, which was negotiated and shifted over time, but the border was generally near sites like Nahor, Tel El-Meri, and Tel Jawa. As for the history of the Ammonites and the Iron Age Ammonite kingdom, we don't really have a lot of non-biblical written sources, and this.
All right, so back to that. Here. So, any thoughts so far, though?
No, nothing in particular at the moment.
So,
Just trying to figure out exactly where the okay.
So, and
I was just looking up where the Ammonites actually were. So they were north of the Dead Sea.
Yeah. In Jordan.
Yep.
And
north of Moab. So.
Mm-hmm. And so Abraham said that I said only without fear of God in this place they will kill me over this thing because of my wife. Oh wait, hold on. ויאמר אברהם כי אמרתי רק אין יראת אלוהים במקום הזה והרגוני על דבר אשתי וגם אמנה אחותי בת אבי לא באתי מי ותהי לי לאישה ויהי כאשר תהיתוהו אותי אלוהים מבית אבי ואומר לזה חסדך אשר תעשייה עמדי אל כל המקום אשר נבוא שמה אמרי לי אחי הוא ויקח אבימלך צאן ובקר ועבדים ושפחות ויתן לאברהם וישב רועת שרה אשתו ויאמר אבימלך הנה ארצי לפניך בטוב בעיניך שב ולשרה אמר הנה נתתי 1,000 כסף לאחיך הנה הוא לך כסות עיניים לכל אשר איתך קול ונוכחת ויתפלל אברהם אל האלוהים וירפא אלוהים את אבימלך ואת אשתו ואמהותיו וילדו כי עצר אדוני בעד כל רכב לבית אבימלך על דבר שרה אשת כי צר אדוני בעד כל רכב לבית אבימלך. See. Sorry, I'm like really tired. Let's see, where was I at? Oh yeah, we're almost done. Sweet. Usara. Wait, where? I feel like I'm missing. ויקח אבימלך צאן ובקר עבדים. No, I did read that. ויאמר אבימלך הנה ארצי לפניך בטוב בעיניך שב. ושרה אמר הנה נתתי 1,000 כסף לאחיך הנה הוא לך כסות עיניים לכל אשר איתך ואת כל ונכות. Wait, did I fall asleep for like a while or something? Because I could have sworn I read this a while ago.
No, you had a couple moments that you might have had 10-15 seconds that you might have had just a pause in your head, but no sleep.
Oh, okay, this is weird because I could have sworn I read part of this before, but anyway, let's see. 15. Wait. Oh, shoot, where was ויקח אבימלך צאן ובקר. עבדים ושפחות ויתן לאברהם וישב לו את שרה אשתו. ויאמר אבימלך הנה ארצי לפניך בטוב בעיניך שב. ולשרה אמר הנה נתתי 1,000 כסף לאחיך הנה הוא לך כסות עיניים לכל אשר איתך ואת כל ונכוחת. ויתפלל אברהם אל האלוהים וירפא אלוהים את אבימלך ואת אשתו ואמהותיו וילדו כי עצר אדוני בעד כל רחם לבית אבימלך על דבר שרה אשת אברהם. So, I thought so that Abraham that only. Oh wait, no. Let's see, what part did I read this? And also, I believe, or in truth, she's my sister, the daughter of my father. She is also not the daughter of my mother, and so she is to me a wife. And so when when God caused me to wander, from the house of my father, and I said to her, this is your kindness, or let your kindness that I do, that you do for me, stand with me. I don't know. Wherever, from every place that we go, there I will say, Achihu. There you say of me, Achihu, that he is my brother. And Abimelech took flocks of sheep and cattle and slaves and maidservants, and they and he gave them to Abraham, and he restored to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, "Behold, my land before you. Settle wherever is good in your eyes." And for Sarah, and to Sarah he said, "Behold, I've given you 1,000 elef kesef lachich, 1,000 pieces of silver for your brother. Behold, this is for him, kesut, as a covering in Naim, a covering in your eyes, or of your eyes." Let's see, what's this say? Covering of the eyes, meaning for all that are with you, and all that nechotach, and all that are proven. I'm not sure. One second. One moment. Sorry, one second. Right. And Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech and his wife and his children, and what's our for God had restrained the quickly, or steadfast, all the wombs in the house of Abimelech, over the thing that Sarah, the wife, over the thing with Sarah, the wife of Abraham. And that's where we're finishing up for the night. So let me just, let's see what it is. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. All right, so what do you think? I'm going to be right back. I just need to get something to eat.
No problem. I'll just rant on here. My take on it is this is a rather odd verse, and because they're basically saying at the end that there was this problem that had happened in the middle there, and that God had made all of the people of Abimelech's household unable to conceive and have children. but it's kind of like just tacked on at the end, sort of an afterthought. It's like, oh, by the way, there was this problem that God gave him and he fixed him afterwards. It definitely, again, at the very least, seems to be drawing from a one of the different, the Yahwist or the priestly or something like that, one of the different, documentary traditions, and it seems to be quilted together here. And it fits with other themes that they go elsewhere, where whole households are inflicted with the sins on just some. Again, like with Egypt, where the plagues are inflicted on everybody for the sins of the Pharaoh. And again, this is just sort of a short and sweet, and this whole, she's my sister. No, she's my wife. She's my sister wife. Again, 3 times, and twice with Abraham, once with Pharaoh, and again here with Abimelech, and then for some reason Isaac pulls it with Abimelech afterwards. The other aspect that kind of jumps out at me in this last verse is the idea that if you're going with the again, the non-traditional, non-canonical theory of Isaac is Abimelech's son, he's basically sitting there and letting Abraham pick out Isaac's inheritance from him. Pick the land you're gonna, my son's gonna inherit, and my son, your son, and then basically giving Sarah money. And I'm surprised they didn't fit in there. Here's the money for your brother. Make sure your husband doesn't spend it poorly. Overall, this is pretty good. Next one we move on to, like it looks like the birth of Isaac is next, and then the whole sacrifice thing and all. But this is kind of interesting, and figuring out exactly where this is. This is down in the south, more in the Negev desert, as opposed to where the Ammonites are, which is across the Jordan River, north of the Dead Sea. This is pretty far in the south here, and it's the city's considered to be Alusa or Halusa back in the day, and it was on the trade route from Petra, Jordan to Gaza. And it was basically a way station in between.
So do you think that, I'm almost getting like some sort of ritual vibes, like why would Isaac do the same thing unless there's some meaning to it?
No, I agree. And again, we're going to get to that one, because I would have to wonder, did that happen right before Rebecca conceived? Again, be interesting if it was.
What are you implying?
Well, be Abimelech, sort of Chinatown. Abimelech, gave birth to Isaac, and then he also gave birth to Isaac's kids, where Jacob and Esau were also Abimelech's kids. Hey, if you're going to go heretical and off the page, you may as well go all the way over the cliff, right?
Yeah, why go a little and not all the way?
Exactly. Yeah, you can't be half condemned to hell.
What would that look like? Persephone?
Oh, good call. Yep, you're right there. She gets a pass, you get half your pass.
Anyway, I need to finish up, so this was fun. We'll do it again soon. And on that note,
want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay?